shortages of going into the next few years. It's likely half of what the state of Maine actually needs. This is going to be a very competitive process. Okay, just going to the state and asking for money is not going to be a gimme, and it's not going to be enough money for everyone. And so staying competitive and looking good is very important here. One of our primary goals in Leeds was to not raise local taxes. That is a keystone of our project. We're not going to raise local taxes. Our project can afford to bond about $1 million. Okay, if we borrow $1 million around that dollar figure, we're successful. But we have a $2.2 million project. Okay, so we have our own ARPA funding, which we're dedicating to this, of about $270,000. We are asking you for money, and we are asking the state for money to make up that remaining chunk of change. When we go to the state, they're going to rank us on a whole number of metrics. And every applicant that comes in is going to be ranked. The less money we ask them for, the higher up we're going to rank. Okay? So the more money that you are able to contribute to make up for that funding gap, the more attractive we are to the state. Similarly, we've done a number of other things to look attractive as well. I mean, we are essentially crafted our project to only target the unserved portions of our communities. You look worse if you're building over, say, the cable system or other things. We're targeting our unserved, but we're rural. And so the dollar figure per person served is a challenge for us. That's a metric they look at. Okay, I mean, the whole reason why we're not served is because we're rural and spread out. Okay, so we need to have a competitive metric of what we're asking them for money for what is happening. They will also, and several times Peggy Schaefer, the executive director of McMain, has said they're really looking for project stacking here. They will view us better if you are our partner. We will jump in the rank if the county government has said this is a project we're funding. Okay, so there was some discussion about, well, how much money is needed. Unfortunately, it's not a magic number in that regard. How much makes us competitive enough to win? I don't know the answer to that. I can say that when we asked for the 450, we did that based upon a population, breakdown of the county and Leeds and those proportions. Very confident that award we would be funded right away. Okay, we're very confident about that. In talking to Mr. Post, making a $250,000 recommendation, that's still a meaningful contribution. We still have a partnership. We still feel very confident about that. But if it's much less than that, and if it doesn't happen at all, frankly, we're very uncertain about our project. Frankly, we don't really have a lot of confidence that we not only get approved this round, but the uncertainty of the future is incredibly difficult. So why now? Why is it uncertain in the future? When the state does decide to unleash the gates of all this money, everyone's going to get awarded at the same time, going after the same contractors, buying the same materials, all at the same time. We feel that it is very important for us to be in front of that, to hire the contractors that we need to hire before everyone else starts to hire them, to buy the materials that we need to buy before everyone else tries to buy those materials. And we're positioned to do that. We're ready to go. In fact, the contractor that we're talking to is based in Poland, Hawkeye Construction. So a substantial amount of the money being invested here is going right back into the Androscoggin County contractor. Okay. I think Mark Willett here, he's a executive director of Axiom, who is the operator who will be operating our internet system if we can get it built. Mark's been working on projects and having partnerships with other municipalities around the state. You might be able to speak a little bit more towards, the demand that is coming down the road and how inflation is impacting materials. I think when we were talking about lead times of fiber, Corning, who's a major, Corning Glass, major producer of fiber optic cable. What was the lead time? I think you were saying something like... it
was 18 months.
18 months.
Like 18 months. They shut it down in last year, said no more orders at all. And we're waiting on, I just talked to Southport this morning, and Hawkeye is building for us, for that town, in conjunction with Axiom. they had ordered the equipment last 2 weeks ago, and they said they had a lead time of 8 months at minimum for that to come in. So that's only going to start. That's not using. They love Corning. Hawkeye loves the Corning product. So they're because Southport is not particularly large. They were able to cobble together from several different distributors enough to get it in, but it's going to take 8 months and at minimum. And I only see that lead time just exploding, getting much, much longer very quickly as this new money gets on the street.
I mean, we've been working on our project for years, literally years, and our financial model works with today's dollars. It very well may not work with dollars a year from now, it's only going to. Our project is going to get more expensive if we wait. There's no doubt about that. So, we feel an extreme amount of urgency in getting approval and moving forward right away this January. If we can do that, we will have people being served in Leeds by the end of the year, okay, with new internet service. If we don't get approved now and go into this Connect Maine Authority program in here in January, it's likely much more than a year of delay. It is for all these factors we were just explaining, demand and dollars. Without putting too hard a point on it, I think there was a comment made at the meeting last time that this January deadline is somehow not the commission's problem. Unfortunately, that didn't feel good to hear. We are a municipality in Androscoggin County. Our residents are governed by this body. This January deadline is very real, and this is a very critical milestone of our project, and we really hope that you can consider funding us now. And just to highlight, what are we asking for? Okay, we are asking for a letter of commitment, and frankly, that letter can be contingent upon state approval. Okay, so you don't even necessarily need to fund us right away. We can wait until the state reviews everything. But if we have a letter from you with a commitment contingent upon their approval, that is as good as gold to them, and we will know if we have state approval by March of 2022, ahead of your April deadline for looking at other projects. So if we don't get approved, you still have that money. You can put that towards other projects if you want. Okay, that's ultimately what we're asking for here, is a letter of commitment to allow us to move forward with Connect Maine here in January and be successful. I really can't stress enough how much the success of our project is sitting in your hands right now. With that, I'll close, and if you have questions, feel free.
So I'm looking at the map. Well, first of all, can you give me the funding sources again?
Yes.
The total project cost was what?
2.2.
And what are your funding sources?
So we're going to bond $1 million, plus or minus. Okay, maybe it's. We have our own ARPA allocation, about 270.
270,000?
Yes, 270,000.
From Leeds or from?
ARPA straight to Leeds, yes, Town of Leeds. So Town of Leeds is putting in 1.2, almost 1.3 of this from bonding and our ARPA funds. Yeah.
Okay. When you say you're funding, you're including the 270,000 you're asking from county.
Nope, 270. So the county was awarded ARPA funding, and the Town of Leeds was awarded ARPA funding.
You don't care about our money right now. About how much we have.
Okay.
What do you want from us and from others? Is what I'm trying to get my hands on.
Okay. We had made an initial request to you for 450,000. We, as far as we're concerned, that request still stands. Commissioner, the Administrator Post made a recommendation for 250. I think that's the range we're talking about. I think we could still be successful with 250,000 with your partnership. It's still a meaningful value, and whatever we don't get from you, we're going to have to make up for by requesting more from the Connect Maine Authority.
Spectrum has some network in the area, and all the red areas are non-spectrum. Is it because they don't have population to support the cost of the infrastructure?
So, dating back to 1990, when the town of Leeds struck an agreement with, at that point in time, it was Adelphia Cable. There was an agreement, a cable franchise agreement, that said the cable company didn't have to build in areas where there weren't at least 15 people per mile, 15 customers per mile. And so, in some cases, they still built in areas that were under the 15, but in most cases they didn't. They stuck to that density, and parts of the town were served with a cable system and parts were not. And then it was sold to Time Warner and now sold to Spectrum. We currently, that agreement actually had a 15-year life with a automatic 15-year extension, so 30 years, which terminated in 2020. And we're still in the process of renegotiating that with Spectrum. Further reduced density. The first thing that they said was, well, how about you need to have at least 20 people per mile in order for us to go in there instead of 15. And so they're actually trying to push and pull away from the density with the agreement they're proposing right now.
So, I'm assuming you've had some conversations with Spectrum about?
Oh, certainly.
Okay.
Yes, I mean, there's a lot of history actually of us reaching out to Spectrum. For the beginning of our project, they wouldn't speak to us. Frankly, we invited them to meetings. We tried to get them in. They wouldn't. Once federal money started becoming available, they're very quick to come talk to us. And in fact, when we put out the RFP, they did provide us with an RFP. However, after again, years of study of and looking at our needs and what is best for the town of Leeds, we evaluated all those proposals and ended up selecting the one we received from Axiom. And again, we are trying very hard not to build in areas that Spectrum, the cable system, already is. We are trying to target our infrastructure into the areas where there is no cable, the people that are truly not served.
No. Go ahead. Mr. Poirier?
Citizens are in the town of Leeds.
About 1,000. Yeah.
How many
What's that?
citizens?
I'm sorry. I meant customers is about 1,000.
Citizens, a little over 2,000 people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mention the cost per either customer or citizen. I'm not
Yeah,
sure.
it's
now,
customer.
but you
It's
said that.
it's per
So
customer.
Per customer.
Yeah, per service that would be installed.
Per service.
Yeah.
So what is that going to be at 2.2?
I don't know what I have that metric, but we're talking about somewhere between 325, 350 customers.
So 325 new customers is what
New
this
services
pro-
is
new
what we
services
yeah,
is what this
we'll be able to
2.2
serve.
million will do.
Yes. Yeah. And while that is just the people that are unserved, there are, like you saw, some overlap where we had to go down some of the main streets, and I'm not counting those right now. So
So those people will have a choice.
yeah, and you can see we're largely building a network that's half of our community once you look at it geographically. But because the network that was built by the cable system was covering where we're most dense, even though it's half of the geography, it's less than 40 or 35% of our actual community residents services.
And if ARPA money had not come along, what was
Well, that's a great question. In 2019, we had all kinds of fun and crazy ideas. So we partnered with Town of Fayette, Mount Vernon, Reedfield, actually a number of Kennebec County municipalities because we're right on the border. 3 of those municipalities are forming a regional utility district. They're going to town meetings and they're forming a 3-town utility district. One of those communities is looking to make a partnership with a company called Red Zone Wireless. There is another, 2 of the other communities are, or I shouldn't say the 2 other, but Mount Vernon would be the other one. They are kind of undecided what they're doing. They don't have a specific plan. They're not going to the utility district. They haven't struck a deal. They're going to probably go out to RFP for something. There's a lot of different ideas out there of what to do. Had the ARPA money not come along, it's unclear. I mean, we'd still be dealing with Connect Maine Authority. The money that is out there would still be competitive. There was a $10 million bond that we all approved at the ballot in November, not too long ago. That's still the money we're dealing with now.
So there has been some funding, but nothing of this significance. So I think we'd probably be doing the same thing, frankly, but it's may have had slightly different details. And if we don't get approved here and go forward with Connect, our project very well could change moving forward, and it might need to be recrafted if we can't get this to work.
From authorized by Connect Maine Authority, that was state designated budget dollars, wasn't it not?
I'll let Mark speak to that more.
It was the 15. It's part of this next round of 6 to 7 million is part of a $15 million bond that state voters approved last year. It's the second round of that.
So there's no federal funds involved with that.
Correct. Not in this next round.
Right. But there are anticipated federal funds for Connecting America, right? If this everything goes through.
Yeah, it essentially goes to the same entity. We're going to Connect Maine right now. It's largely the same dollars. With that bond, the federal money, it's the same money going to the same entity, and everyone's going in the state of Maine is going to ask them for money. And like I said earlier, it's still not enough.
Just a little different than that, just to make sure. So the current funding that the state is going to receive from the feds, and it's unclear whether they've received it yet or not, is from the infrastructure bill that just recently passed.
Correct.
It's 100 million, 125 million. I apologize. Probably my son calling me about why I'm not doing homework with him. Apologies for that. So that funding is going to be handled by the new authority, the Maine Connectivity Authority. What's concerning to people like me who are dealing with a lot of communities and looking for funding is the rules have not been set yet. There are federal rules that will be attached to that money, this next round of money, the 150 million. But how the state allocates those funds and whether the same formulas and the same allocations are done through the current funding that the state fully controls through the bonding that passed is unclear. They just approved a president of the new authority yesterday. Yeah. So the process is very unsteady at the moment until they get their act together and find the bathrooms and do all the things they need to do, figure out how to spend that money. So one of the reasons I think Joe and other communities like Joe's are concerned is it's not really super clear. We know what this money is. We know what the formulas are. We know how to apply for this current money. And Axiom was very successful with 2 other communities in the last round with this current funding. So we understand how the process works today. We're just not sure how the process works moving forward. And as other communities come on tap and be looking at that larger amount of money, it's going to be extremely competitive.
I realize that. Now, the customers who will be needing service, it's their obligation.
So, they have no obligation, right?
So it's a freebie to them.
Right. Right now, well, no. Right now, they have no obligation to subscribe, but it does cost. Okay, so essentially, right now, their only option is a very slow DSL connection from Consolidated Communications. And it's a very slow, again, sub-broadband speeds. We're talking, in many cases, 4/1, if you're familiar with what speeds are. That's very low. We will be offering direct fiber to the home service, blowing that out of the water. Okay, real modern broadband, one of the best you can ask for, and for cheaper than the service that Consolidated currently provides. So there is really no other logical choice. It will be cheaper and better, and it will be, I think, a $59 service is the way our financial model is built right now. We are hopeful to bring that down. Again, as a municipally controlled system, anything we do better through this process is going to go straight into bringing rates down. And so that $59 is what our model is built around. We have a certain assumption based on other communities and what they've done, how many people are going to sign up, and we feel very good about that at $59. So,
And this is a totally separate system from everybody else that you approve.
Correct.
So what's gonna happen if Spectrum customers think that the new people are getting a real good deal?
What's going to happen? They're going to come to the selectmen and say, "How come you only built out half the town?" Right? And we're going to say that we're going to kind of play that by ear. I can say there has been discussion. In fact, some of the biggest complaints we got in some of the town meetings were, "We don't really like our Spectrum service. How come you're not serving us?"
Right.
And ultimately, that is because of the way this funding mechanism works. Okay, we are asking. We rank high because we're not overbuilding Spectrum. Okay, we look better. We're more likely to be funded. The funds are available for people that are truly unserved. Connect Maine, the federal funding sees people that have a cable service as being served, and kind of will dock our application for that a bit. So maybe in the future, we could consider expansion if there's a demand in town to expand out. But we really are looking to just. There are many communities that have very different levels of need. Some people, like one of the communities we're working with, Reedfield, is almost completely cable, but they're just fed up with the cable company. Okay, well, that's a different need than someone that just doesn't have any service at all. That's a real immediate need, and that's what this need. This is what our network is filling: the immediate need of people that aren't served. It's not trying to take someone that has a reasonable connection with the cable system and elevate them to fiber. Okay, that's a different type of need. Valid, I think, and some communities are doing that, but I want to be clear. We are really trying to target and address an immediate need of no service.
I appreciate you coming because you and Joe, you've been able to really get into the numbers that you have obviously a lot of knowledge about. Yes, go ahead.
Can I just make one other point about this, what they're thinking about and what they're gonna do with Leeds, because I'm really excited about it. And that is, just to be clear, the $1 million in bond that the town's gonna take out, that's gonna be paid for back by those subscriber rates that Axiom's gonna be charging. So Axiom is gonna return a portion of those funds back to the town so that they can pay for that bond to relieve the taxpayer of any risk or need. So very important that this is a formula that is being worked on in many communities like Leeds, and I have about 12 of them working through the process to work on that model so that taxpayers are not affected. So subscribers pay for the system essentially. If you want to have the system, you can pay for it through your subscription rates, and we return part of that money back to the town. Very interesting. Something new.
If the commissioners don't mind, I'd like to jump to the other side of the table, leave the chair just for a second. I'm the representative for this community, and I know this community really well. I've been to their annual meetings. This is a very responsible, fiscally conservative community. They don't. For you, I'm really glad with your question you brought it out. This wasn't a situation where, oh, there's money coming down the highway, let's get our tin cup out there and get some of it. This has been a project, this has been a need and a project that seemed unsurmountable. You know, last time I listened to everybody talk about it, it seemed like, wow, how are you ever going to, and now, you know. And so, I just wanted to add that to the conversation. Any other questions?
Thank you for hearing us again.
Thank you very much. Until later in the agenda, you have a contract reference up to the commissioners.
Oh.
It is on the agenda, but.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get back on track then. And let's go to the review and approval of bills and part-time deputy payroll. We'll take a motion in a second, and I know there's some questions.
Okay, Madam Chair, I move to approve, excuse me, manual awards 2148, 2201, and 10 to project.
Okay, and second. Already had.
I have a question on some of them. I'd like to know what we're paying. So every now and then I'll ask you about a different vendor we're paying. Community, any police, Gorham Savings Leasing. What are we leasing or what is it?
That's our leasing company. We go through them for the sheriff vehicles.
All those vehicles,
Yeah.
that's why it's so high. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And for purchase power was another vendor.
That's our postage machine.
And Maine District Attorney Technical Services.
I think it's that. Is that the laptop or the once a year, program?
That was several thousand.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the laptop.
That's an ongoing contract we have.
It's more of a presentation to us that what they had done, unfortunately, at one time is they got, all their computers got old. It's a really big bill. So what he's done. It's
5 or 6 a year or something like that.
so the,
Replacement program?
yeah,
Okay, all right, I understand.
Yeah.
And
just something about the accounts.
then there's Harity Ravasco Law.
Probate.
That's okay. And one,
She enters them all, so she'll work it out.
last one was the Time Warner Cable.
That's the big one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to explain that? No, it's the.
That's the new telephone, not the telephone. It's the new cable system for the jail. So we updated to fiber into the jail for the inmate inmate TVs. We were on those old little analog converters that are nothing but problems. One day we'll have 6 channels, another day we'll have 20, and it's all different. It was causing a lot of problems within the inmates, which in turn causes problems with the officers, and it's a ripple effect, and then we have to service it. And
So that's the system they use to make phone calls.
no, I keep saying phone. I'm sorry. It's strictly telephones. Wow.
Television?
Television. Thank you. Strictly television.
How long have we? How long is that? How old is that contract?
We just got it last month.
December.
We've been working on it for almost a year.
And we did go out to bid.
There's no one else to go to bid with.
There's no one else. All right, those are my questions.
Anyone else? We have a motion and a second, and let's go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor of approval? MCCA reports. Let's see, we also have a letter from Malcolm in our packet. Either I missed or I.
So
Yeah, the
My
capital
camera's
wasn't an MCCA.
we're only using this one.
I think
I know.
it's next
Yeah.
month.
Did you want to address the letter from Malcolm?
because I'm not
No,
selected.
you can read it. Essentially, the question was about the, whether ARPA fund could be under the risk pool, if something bad happened, or we made a honest mistake or something. Essentially, what he said was that, that they're not going to do it. They've only had a couple of inquiries, us being one of them. And they would help us to find a criminal policy, if we needed one, but that essentially is not what we were looking for. So it's pretty much, I think, a dead deal.
So MCCA isn't going to offer any
They're
kind of
not.
coverage on that. So if we were going to do something to cover the treasure, we'd need to get our own errors and omissions
Yes.
insurance.
Yeah.
Thank you for checking into that.
Quite frank, there's no desire or intent to be involved in the management or oversight.
What's that?
There's no desire or intent to be involved in the management or oversight. They're out.
Yeah. Okay, Workforce Board, Commissioner Kelly.
The executive director, Stacy Kilroy, resigned shortly before Christmas. The new acting director is Blaine Philander. She's a young woman who has come in to, speak with us a couple of times.
Good for her.
Yeah. It's awesome that she's been able to step into that role. I'm not positive if, she's going to remain there, on a permanent basis or if someone else will take the position. I'll keep you informed as I am.
Administrator's report.
I'll only just deal with a couple of things here. I've been dealing with the ARPA requests, reviewing the county's needs, and have drafted memos that you have to recommend approvals for county projects. Of course, we're ending 2021 and preparing for 2022, which we're in and beginning. Various personnel issues. I did check with Malcolm, as we just talked about, the MMA, MCCA risk pool regarding potential ARPA coverage. And he could respond back. I will say that the negotiating team needs to meet and set a meeting with the union for the next contract negotiations. They want to start as soon as possible. And the board, in the meantime, should consider parameters as to what should be offered or accepted. And so we probably ought to go into executive session next meeting to discuss that. And then set up a time to meet with the
See, now we'll move on to comments from the public.
Good. No one. There's 3 people. One's a regular. 2 others that haven't said anything.
On to new business and go to the ARPA requests. And number 1 on ARPA request is,
No.
Is from the town of Leeds. And Jen, or does the board have any recommendations?
Yes, I have a question other than the recommendation. So there was 2 numbers that were thrown out. There was a 450, which was a request, and then there was a 250, which was administrator thought might be more palatable, I guess. So what happens between the 2? How does that impact you?
Whatever the remaining balance, the gap would just be additional requests from the state. So whatever, again, we can bond about $1 million. We have our own ARPA allocation. The town of Leeds has got 1.25, almost 1.3 certain. The remaining part, about 900, is what we're asking for. Whatever we can't get from you is a request to the state, and if we ask the state for all of that, it's not going to look very good. So we really need your partnership to bump that and make those metrics better. Yeah.
Can I just make one additional point to that, which is the funding formula takes into account what they call the cost per pass. I think Commissioner, I don't know his last name, Porter, made this point at some level, asking for the population and number of homes. So the cost per pass per home really matters because you get a higher amount of score, making you more competitive if you can reduce that cost per pass. So the larger the amount of grant funding that can come from you will make the project more competitive at the state level. That's not to say, let's be clear, that's not to say that the lower amount of whatever you're discussing, between the range, would necessarily take them out of the running. It would still be a competitive application. But in a competitive environment, every point can count. And I mean that, every single point can count. So the higher amount would give them leads a better chance because they would score a little bit higher. So that's all I'm saying. Does that make sense? Okay.
I have a question. Do you have any idea what the, like how many other communities are applying to this? This aid from the state? And
Yeah.
what's the level of competition?
So it's not perfectly clear. They'll know obviously when everyone submits, but the anticipated, 7 million I think is available right now. And I think like 30 million is going to be requested, 30 million of applications or 40 million applications is likely to be submitted. And so it's going to be very competitive here in January. But we have a lot of things going for us. And again, the fact that we're targeting unserved folks is a big one. And that we can now hopefully have the partnership with the county is also, I don't want to, it is very important. I think that they will really see that as a big deal to have both local fund, county funding, and state funding all highlighting this, and they will want to leverage. Like if your conditional letter of approval, if they award us on condition, then they will be able to leverage your funding into our application, and so they'll want to take advantage of that as well. So there's many things that your commitment and partnership do to elevate us, and we feel very confident with your partnership, but very pessimistic without it. I'll say that.
Am I wrong? When the wheels first started on this, wasn't your number like up closer to 4 million?
Yeah,
Or do I just have that? in my
what we
head
were
that
looking
was
at is
correct?
to serve the entire community, it would have been around $4 million.
Yeah, you've really
So we
done well to
carried
bring it
back
down
to
a little
just
bit.
what we need.
Thank you.
Administrator, what was your rationale behind the 250 with discussions with leads?
Part of the rationale, I felt that was a more, would get a positive reaction from the board. Applications that we have in front of us, there's a lot of other needs that the county has as well. And so my feeling was that would get your support. It didn't work last meeting, but it made it.
Well, I have. We can discuss it. I move that we grant possible adjustment later on. Changes in circumstances and reaction. That's a motion on the floor right now for me.
I second that.
And are you saying that when we write this letter, we actually state in the letter that there's the possibility for adjustment?
I would recommend that. And at first when you came, I'll just justify it as a discussion here, it's just, you just can second it. I thought it was like a stretch, because it's a commercial operation, it really is, but there's a big educational component to it.
Right.
And the other thing, I was worried about hearing the boom of brands on the front door here from other towns. That, hey, we want to be part of it too. But what impressed me is that you have done your homework quite well, and that you have demonstrated due diligence, which is important to me. And I can justify supporting this project. Before I was very much on the line.
Context, and as 2,000 people in the county, 2,000 probably in Leeds. Opera money over a 2-year period, it was 22 million. So I'm not suggesting we handle other. Special situation, we try to upgrade the county, all county towns be tempting to just look at those numbers, and if you divided the 108,000 by 2,000, that's 54. If you took 22 million and divided that by 54, it's I'd be comfortable with about 40,000. Maybe have to push that up a little bit. That's an amount that it's easy to
And then that, take this in 2 votes, so any other further discussion on just the amendment part right now, and then we'll, the right way to handle this?
Yes.
Okay. Further discussion on the amendment of, what, give me the exact.
Caveat that if they don't get the state funding, then we don't. But it's
say contingent
Okay.
upon the state.
Contingent, okay.
And just one more thing, I get that the more we can put in, the more likely the state. Possible to figure out what that number, what the magic number would be. Personally speaking.
Yes, go right ahead.
So, we asked Administrator Post to prepare a guideline on how we were going to use the opera money. And unfortunately, we haven't adopted that yet. It is draft of that plan. We did have a date up to April, which is what we mentioned earlier. Concern is that we've had other organizations come, Journey House was one of them, and they had a complete presentation also, and we did not vote at that time. We told them that we would wait. While I think I'm very pleased with what Leeds has done, they've shown a lot of initiative, and they've definitely put a plan together very well. I can't say that these other organizations have not done the same also, and we made the decision at the time that we were going to wait. So I guess I feel like we're putting the cart before the horse here, to be honest about it. It's not that it's not a good, getting more for your money, because I do realize that for every dollar we give them, they're getting quite a few more dollars for it. They're also putting the town on $1 million of this project, so they're definitely participating in wanting to do this. Not saying no to the project. I'm just looking at some of the other items that was put in our folders tonight. We have the Sabatis Recreation Club asking for $200,000. Angels Wings asking for 124. The Trinity Jubilee Center, it could be asking for, but I know they need 1.7 million.
Well, that the official request is 950.
I didn't.
When I copied off your copies, I left a letter out, and that's my fault. I will make sure you get it.
So, again, I think we need to look at everything at once. I don't know if I'm explaining myself correctly. It's not that I don't think we should do these things. But as we're finding out, we've got more, every week, every time we have a meeting, we have more requests. And for that reason, I would like to just unfortunately say we have to go forward.
Right.
I see what, I understand what I'm saying. You said March is when they're gonna be releasing who they're funding?
Correct. They're accepting applications basically starting now or middle of January through the end of January. And they'll be considering them over February and March, and by the end of March, they should make an
So
announcement.
you have an actual deadline of end of January.
Yes, no, there's a legitimate
So there's a
deadline. If we
legitimate
don't get an
deadline.
application in with our financial model and all of this commitment, then we don't have a project, we don't go.
Okay.
And that's for this 6 million, which is the bond from the state of Maine, not from the federal monies. And I understand you're saying the federal monies don't know what
We don't
the
even.
rule, yeah, it's sort of like the way we got the opera money. We didn't know either one could do it.
Right.
I understand the frustrations on
Well,
that,
and
at least I think the county commissioners.
just wanted to highlight too, our whole financial model is likely gonna be very different if we go down and delay, because pricing will change. And, the model that we've developed, the project we have, that goes forward here in January, or it's probably a different project in the future.
I would just say that, the pandemic has really highlighted the need for reliable, consistent, internet in rural communities especially. I mean, even now, with the new variant, schools are going in and out of, remote session. And what are the people with Leeds doing that, don't have access to, high-speed, internet broadband? How are they handling that?
It's a good question. I
Yeah.
haven't been to the office in 2 years.
If you go to the website www.klcba.org, which is our website of the communities we've been working with.
One more time?
Yeah, WKLCBA.org.
WKLCBA.org.
And I can get that too. I think it's in the letter that we provided earlier. But we interviewed the town of Leeds, Leeds Central School principal about that very thing. There's like a 10-minute YouTube video where she explains the troubles they've had in our community in trying to do remote learning. We went to the DFB Russell Medical Center, which is a doctor's office in Leeds. They also have a branch of Turner and Monmouth in Leeds. And we spoke to one of the doctors about trying to do remote medical visits, which completely didn't work for them because they were not able to get people connected. While many of the communities in southern parts of the state, probably right here in Lewiston and Auburn as well, they were able to successfully do things remotely. And there were some real haves and have-nots in Leeds where some people could and just some people could not. And it was very dysfunctional.
Yeah, for that reason alone, I support it. I mean, it's not an option, it's not a luxury anymore. Internet is a necessity. It's an absolute necessity. That's that reason alone. I'm on board.
Mr. Blair. Well, I appreciate Commissioner John's amendment. I think given the uncertainties about our request, I probably would not go that high. I would probably entertain a maximum of 300,000 at this point. Again, possibility of if funds are available later and then they are proven to be and maybe from other places we haven't heard of yet, I would not support $1,000. At the same time, I realize that time is of the essence in this situation, and that your applications need to be in by the end of the month. So I would support no more than a 3.
Or could I do this so that I can keep things straight? Could we
Well, there's
vote on the amendment first, and then I would give you an opportunity? Afterwards, is that, okay, just, because otherwise I'm gonna lose track of what
You're gonna lose it.
Yeah, not lose it, but lose track of where we are and miss something important. Any discussion or questions about the Commissioner Michaels amendment? Just so we're very clear, would you restate?
Contingent upon
Contingent.
being accepted by the state, otherwise there would be a letter of intent. Contingent upon the state.
Yeah, that's what I have, it's state funding.
Right.
Okay, so we have a motion, and we have a second, and then we have an amendment and a second. All those in favor of Commissioner Michaels' amendment? Opposed? Okay. Never had time for that. I'm a little baffled, we've never had a tie before. Okay.
Motion fails.
Done.
I'd like to propose a motion,
Amendment to your own motion.
to,
Okay, and the second, okay. And the 300,000 contingent on the state funding, okay?
only because of time is of the essence
Right.
of this. And that's the
Right.
only
I've said before.
Absolutely.
Any further discussion on this amendment?
Could we, at this point, agree that we will review the American Rescue Plan decision and action plan drafted and come up with a formula going forward for all other requests? Because I really think doing these without a plan is precedent that's, I
It's
don't
number
think.
C under this title, so your
Nope, that's fine.
wishes free.
I just wanna make sure
Yeah,
we
I
get a
understand.
plan, because this is going to be a long $20 million of distribution. We are gonna have love and hate situations.
It's number C under this topic, so you're good to go right there. Any other discussion about the $300,000 with contingent of state funding amendment? All those in favor? Opposed? And I think it's 5-1, and I believe that takes care of the original motion then too, right? We just, okay?
Yep.
So it's 300,000 contingent on the state funding. And Mr. Post, I guess we're authorizing you to write that letter. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Will you take over the gavel from?
Next on the agenda, we have the Donald Gay Scholarship Fund. Is there anyone present?
Yes. Can I set that up?
Oh, yes, go right ahead.
So, Fuzzy Philbrook, his actual name is Malcolm, and Bob Gardner, they've been around the auctions, some of you may remember him. And their class in their class of Ever Little, I think 1900?
1951.
You're
close.
Yeah, we're close. They set up a scholarship fund. They're probably not gonna live until 120 years old, so they wanted to what they could do with that scholarship fund, and they had an idea which they'll tell you about. So they called me, I said, come talk to the board. And
Say we're not buying any green bananas.
there you go.
I've written out a request, if I could, I thought I'd read it and then ask for questions and comments and see where we go. The request says that the Everett High School class of 1951 created a scholarship in the name of a beloved teacher and music director, Donald M. Gay. During his years at EL, the marching band, the musical performances, recognition and awards in every city and town in Maine practically, and also in New England. Today, however, COVID-19 and age have denied our ability to hold our 70th class reunion. Our youngest members are at least 87 years old. We are concerned about the future of our mission, which is to honor Donald M. Gay for his contributions to our community. Fortunately, the new Everett High School that's being constructed includes a performing arts center and theater, which will be a public asset to be utilized by the community. The naming committee for the new school has indicated the naming of the Performing Arts Center and Theater has a value of $500,000. The trust, created by our class, has assets totaling $400,000. And our request is for $100,000, which will be added to our to purchase the naming rights for the new Performing Arts Center.
Yeah, the only thing I would say it's probably been one of the most exciting adventures that I've had in my life. 20 years ago at our 50th reunion, as Malcolm says, we weren't kids then, we were approaching 70. Now over the past 20 years, we have been able to award 20 scholarships. We began because our principal was very small with $1,000. But next fall, we will be giving our final award of $10,000. So we really wanted it to, again, to reflect this. Donald Gay was a really unusual man. And he was more than a teacher. He was a friend, and I think he inspired the growth and the splendor, really, of both the band and the chorus. I'm happy that it happens that this Performing Arts Center is going to draw people from well beyond the Auburn-Lewiston area. Oxford, Franklin, county area, people will be coming. We don't know what the lists are because this actually will be built. Our understanding is ready for the kids in the fall of 2023. So, as I say, we are now no longer approaching 70, but we're approaching 90, and it's just, I think, a dream of so many of our lives that this can happen. We appreciate the opportunity, certainly, to present this to you.
So fellas, we want to have the new center named after Don Gay, and the school department, second control, has a fee of $500,000 to a benefactor who wants. $100,000, we're looking to close that $100,000 gap, and when the school department gets the money, that will go to support the Performing Arts Center, essentially. They're a named benefactor and the Performing Arts Center gets $400,000.
Yes.
Saying that, so from our point of view, what is in it for the county? It's kind of like a local map. Performing Arts Center that would go out for much more than just Auburn. And 100 seats.
Yes,
It's quite a nice. That would be quite a nice center. And so, so we'll be. That that'll wind up being a contribution. As far as COVID-related benefits, people are stir crazy in the houses. This will be large enough so you can every other seat and still have a good crowd. It'll psychological boost, I think, for the they have a nice Performing Arts Center. We don't have anything like that here.
Also thought it would be important that instead of having this new Performing Arts Center named some bank or some insurance company or something like that, it's going to be named for a devoted teacher. And I think that says a lot for our community to have a Performing Arts Center named after someone we all loved rather than a commercial endeavor.
What is the location where they're planning on building this? The location where they're going to build this?
It's where the old level of high school is. It's under construction now.
Does that answer your question?
They've changed that terrain
Oh, man.
immensely. It's unbelievable. We couldn't figure out how they're gonna do all of this with the school, but they bulldozed and it's a whole different look where the school will be, but it generally is in the location where the current high school is.
Just to clarify, so the 500,000 in the end is not to offset construction costs, but it is for an endowment for that department, is that
Yes,
correct?
Yes, for the Performing Arts Center.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure I understood correctly.
Okay. Yeah, that's good clarification.
We're trying to cut their costs of building, okay?
Not really. Not if they got 120 million from the state.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you for
Thank you.
listening to us. We appreciate it.
And Mr. Post, you have their contact information?
I do.
You do, okay. On to the sub-grant agreement. And Clarice, was this something, was this just the standard form that somebody has prepared and suggested that everyone?
Yep, I got this form right off the federal website. It's really just us.
Concerning what? I guess I'm lost.
I'll let, Larry, do you want to address it, or Clarice?
When I get in trouble, I'll call him Grease, but essentially, when we give money out to those that are requesting it, we are still responsible for that money. We have to track it, we have to then respond to the feds as to how it's been spent and do all of the reporting, as well as the monitoring of how it's being spent. So this essentially is an agreement that goes from the county to all of those that will receive dollars from us.
Okay, so this is concerning ARPA.
Yes.
The ARPA money.
Yeah.
So then when I go to this sheet,
Mhm.
we currently have not given money to any organizations that we needed to use this.
Correct.
With the exception of the building was taken. This this is what we will be, the town of Leeds will be, we will be signing this with the town of Leeds.
Anyone, any other that we grant their requests?
Yeah.
Going forward?
Anybody, right, anybody. that
Anybody,
It's basically, when you guys vote to give, when you folks vote to give money to any organization, it's in essence sub-grant. It's still our responsibility, we have to report on it. So we have to monitor what they're spending on to make sure it's all within the guidelines.
Recipients understand that they have to keep track.
I'll have to develop a report form for them to. We'll have to go and monitor them and, you know, just like kind of a mini audit to make sure they're spending it on what they're supposed to. Or that if they mess up.
Well, my concern is that we are able to get that information, and that information is truthful, and they are willing to use that information. Otherwise, we are responsible for what.
Right, that's what the agreement's for.
Okay.
So they sign the agreement. They sign the agreement, it's legal. Okay.
And then I sort of in connection with that, but we'll just deal with the agreement right now, is the person that's going to assist you to oversee these. I'll take two things at one time, but that was what that request was for, because it is going to be a big job.
Where do they sign this? Where do they sign their own providers? I'm looking at it, I don't see a place for that party to sign, saying they've taken on this responsibility.
Signature page.
We're missing a page.
Because I want a hook.
That's right.
Yeah, I understand.
Did our county attorney draft this? Has she looked at it?
This
came directly from the
It did,
feds.
from the feds, okay.
Yeah, and when I,
And I'm sure they had probably 832 employees.
Okay,
yeah,
Okay.
when I printed it, the page, the signature page.
I guess the other question is, how are we gonna confirm who the authorized signer for that organization is? What I'm trying to say here is, when we say that they're gonna provide us this information, Claude is asking, how do we know we're gonna get that? And you're saying, this is the document where you can hire our attorneys and pursue them. But how are we making sure that that person who's signing with that group, be it the Angels Wings, be it any of these organizations that we're looking at, right? How do we know we get the right officer or the person that's going to, what precautions are you taking to?
So there's a form for everything, right? There's a form that actually, you ask them to tell you who the authorized person is and their board.
So, do we need to approve this tonight, or can we approve this in 2 weeks from now when you have the entire form? What was the promise we just made to them? They did it by the end of January, right? So we can wait for that.
Put those lines on there.
yeah. And I imagine they wouldn't have to sign it until their project is approved, until we disperse the funds, right?
Yeah, because we're writing it.
Yeah, I'm dealing with people we don't.
Yeah, I think we got time for the.
Yeah.
Page.
Is that what you like?
I think that's fair.
Well, the whole form, I mean, I don't.
Wasn't rolling on this one. He's got a lot more contract experience than I do, so.
I don't like the fact that it only has it has page numbers, but it doesn't tell me how many pages.
Well, I can fix that too.
I've dealt with attorneys too long.
No, yeah, it should be, whatever we sign should be a complete intent contract.
And therefore we should approve it completely.
Right, and if there's any changes to it, then it has to have approval from everybody after the change is made.
So we wait on this one.
Yeah,
till the next
you're
meeting.
right, because on most contracts, you have your initial every page as you go through, so that you can't say, I didn't.
Yes, and since MCA doesn't want to insure us, I want it.
And I don't wanna walk next door behind the bar right there, you know?
I just wanted to get it here
Yep.
before you started
Yeah,
approving.
no, I
So,
Marie says she's good with wait till the next meeting.
All right.
We need a motion to table?
Because, well, there's no motion to vote on it, so but I will put it on, as future agenda items to bring it up again. Next, approve this sub. Let me ask you this, and I know I'm jumping to a future agenda items. Do you want to, at the same time, talk about the person that's going to come on board, temporary employee to come on board under Clarice's department that will monitor all of these? It'll be her full-time job to monitor. You want that all be one discussion or two separate discussions?
So one is a personnel issue, the other one is not.
I think they're good to both. The rest of the next one will probably separate.
Person.
Yeah.
I'm writing this down. I will not be here at the next meeting, so Terry, I'll send you this. All right.
Group, things here, are we going to have formal presentations or what?
Are you here to make a?
I am planning-
Because I would be happy to help you.
Next meeting, I was looking at having, there's 3 or 4 that we've got lined up or behind that I was gonna invite to give a presentation.
Okay, all right.
The one,
I will, like I said, I won't be here, but I'll make sure it's in everybody's email. I'm sorry, I overlooked that letter.
No, but then you'll have to,
Put that on the copy.
we'll have to adjust, give it an update always when we make changes on this page. When you get something like that.
I missed something, Ed. What are we talking about?
Yeah, no, this is my fault. There was, with this packet
Did you?
from the
Okay.
Trinity,
Yep.
there was a letter, and when I copied it quick before the meeting to give everybody a copy, I
Okay.
inadvertently forgot the letter that actually makes the formal request. So you'll get this in your email
Okay.
right away,
I'm good with
and Mr. Post, I'll make sure you get it in your email, since I won't be here to address it next meeting.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
we done with that section?
No. No.
Well, next, then is the action plan. What the commissioners like to do as far as the action plan.
I'll come out and say it again. I'm not on board with this. I think they all gotta go to the full board.
I second. The committee, this first sentence seems to form a committee of just including only one commissioner and 3 staff people.
I don't,
Yeah, I'm not.
No, I don't want to be, I don't want anyone to be that commissioner. I think we need to put that just.
that only is to bring 2 to the commissioners with a recommendation. That's not to make decisions. That's simply to, the purpose of that. And I took this from what some other places are doing, but that's, the commissioners ultimately make the decision. It's not up to the committee. The committee simply goes through and says, you know,
thing
we
is,
should.
I sit here and I listen to the questions that people ask, and they're not questions I would have thought of. And everybody brings their own area of concern and expertise. Some people that are terrific money people, and others that look at it from more philosophical.
And we all want to be involved in some capacity, and we all want to hear the presentations, and we all want to have a say. You know, so, I don't know, having one commissioner on the committee doesn't seem to work in that regard.
Change that word to all. I'm saying we're all saying we want the word all.
Yes, but it's
Well,
all,
then it's not a committee, it's the board of
No.
commissioners, and you have to have it, it's not, that we can, that you can meet on a Thursday afternoon sometime. It's a commissioner meeting.
right now, it seems like it's working, rather than coming to our meeting. Who was it? I think it was Franklin or, that actually put it out in the news, what the suggestions and.
Yes, I'll do
So who's the staff person? You have one staff member. Who would that be?
I didn't have any person in mind at the moment.
So are you suggesting that whole first section come off? I might have
It's
an extra copy.
Everything's stapled to the agenda. Sorry.
I probably have an extra copy because I
Yes.
copied off the
My
agenda.
thing ends with the articles.
It's before.
Do you want to take out the whole sentence? That was your motion in the first
Yep.
place. You were.
I do.
Okay,
That,
sure. So applicants may present their requests at board of commissioners meetings.
So you could put this in proper committee reference.
The board shall review the requests.
Yeah.
Recommendation, we'll just review the request. Seven, criteria.
Question about item 7. I think last month or the month before we're not meeting on April 15th, we had, I suggested whatever the date was for the second meeting in April.
The 20th or
I have in
something.
my notes that you changed that to the 20th.
Yeah, and it's just, I didn't want to have an extra meeting.
Yeah.
Well, but the applications don't have to, it would help if you're going to take it up. The application would be in prior to your meeting.
Okay, so should,
That was
okay,
the
so,
rationale.
okay, so the applications are in by the 15th, but we're
Yeah,
going
because
to
if-
review them on the 20th.
Yeah, if you wait until the
Okay.
application is due, same
No,
night.
very good point. No, I agree with you.
You're gonna keep the
You enlightened me,
applications due till
I
the
like the
15th.
idea.
Yep, 15th is fine.
15th is
that
fine,
makes sense.
knowing that on the 20th,
And
we've got
distribution,
them all at that
Yep,
point.
that makes sense.
Okay, I understand much better now.
does the word
Good catch, Larry.
distribution work for you on the 20th?
Yes, if that's good, yeah, sure. Just after listening to the town leads, we've got to make decisions, and I don't want to push the 20th any further, so yes, I agree 100%. But we don't necessarily have to decide all that at that meeting on the 20th.
Oh, I assume it's not all of them.
Well, if we stop figuring it out.
start whittling it down.
So,
You start whittling it down. talking
yes,
it out.
yeah, well, that's what I think. Yeah, because we're gonna have greater requested money. Now, the very last sentence is it throws a big monkey wrench.
Well, and I think that's where, I think in my mind, anything over 250,000 is a major request. At the moment that I was, it is,
It's, well, it's not sufficient to me, but okay.
So how long will we give the House of Representatives? House of Representatives to I mean, this is a hook that can sit out there for.
Yeah.
Okay, I think they establish a date.
Changing the dates too,
Yeah,
though.
yeah. Did you read any?
Final rule is saying at the end of the month, but I don't.
Last I heard, it's still held up in the House and they didn't have a specific date when it was going to be.
I mean, yesterday was their first day in session, so hopefully they're going to. But that doesn't mean they will.
So do we want to, pick a date, do we want to say, based on where the rules are on April 20th also? I guess if we're saying we're gonna have all our requests by then. Do we want to step forward and say, okay, if the House hasn't gotten, if Congress hasn't made the changes to how the ARPA funds are dispersed? Because the flip side is you've got to get it spent or contracted within a certain amount of time, so there's still all that other challenge. You know, not that I want to hurry up and spend money for without analyzing it, but I'm trying to just ensure.
The kicker is if we spend all of our money and the day after, that's the fact that we can spend more money on our own stuff in a broader way, then we're going to be kicking ourselves. So it's one of those, who knows, but I guess I would say I would recommend leaving it for now and see what happens in the next month or so.
Well, because the challenge is if on the 20th of April,
Mhm.
if that is still not decided.
Right.
Then we have all these applicants that are still not sure how to give them an answer.
There's a good chance it's not decided.
Then you have to.
So here's the problem, or at least I'm trying to. So I'm saying to you, okay, I've got 10 great reasons to hand out money, but I haven't got it because I'm telling them that I don't know about this 10 million. So we can't give an answer to those people at that point.
If you want to keep discussing, I'll be happy to stay. Oh, and I could call the majority leader and ask if he knows it. Vote on this. Can we do that?
Yeah.
In the Senate. Jeff may know too. Jeff may know.
I wouldn't be mad about a rough date.
And then you can just, and I see if I can get
Yeah,
something from
I
you.
mean, we can leave it open. It's just, it's gonna haunt us. And I agree with you, it's gonna haunt us if we say the 20th is the day and on the 21st, they suddenly changed all the rules.
Right.
Because you.
Would our luck that would happen?
Because how dare they do that?
So he found pages of where we are.
Yeah, I took them all apart. I've been looking for the page because it has your logo on it. But I had like 14 different pages with your logo on it. And some of it was material that I had brought in 2 different folders, and then I'm going, where is this? Where is this?
Can you color code these going forward? You use colored copy paper for.
Yeah. Those tabs, we need those little tabs. Stick out.
I'll give that job to Sandy and tell her.
Sure she'll love that.
I'm gonna be pretty upset if I don't have pink paper at the next meeting.
Well, each page will be different, so you can.
One, you just need one. While we're sitting here, Bruce, have we heard anything back? My bad. Sorry, I was reading.
With Sally, gonna get Rosie, remember Rosie?
Oh,
Journey House.
Journey House, yeah.
I don't know if they can last till April or something.
That was the other thing that came across my mind, you know, because she said, we need this, you know, and whether or not wait till we do the whole batch, I know what your opinion is, but, if it's a
Certainly a smaller amount.
I think it's a small amount you can ask.
and we can do them a service, my opinion is do it. So I don't think that was really
Be okay with that one,
controversial.
just because of the amount.
Yeah.
I mean, they're asking for pennies, really.
Roland's gonna hate me. I'm going against what I said before now.
I'm just gonna say we gotta wait.
Well, at least let her be in the room.
Yeah, went up
Yeah.
to talk to you and you were gone, didn't realize it, so.
Oh,
Have we heard anything back? Just because I'm curious about the building, or any of the use of the funds for that.
no, not since that last email I sent to y'all. Oh, in the
If you
morning.
want to do that.
Oh, we can move the line here, just know that it's gonna be a challenge.
That one's definitely gonna be a challenge. Because they've never changed their mind on anything before, ever. You
No
would say
sarcasm.
that with a straight face.
No sarcasm there.
Have you had, have you had any, follow-ups from, the, house there, talking about the fence.
Journey House.
Have you had any updates on?
I haven't, but, and I know we've been wanting to keep everything,
Well, we,
but
all
that's
those-
just
We
a
actually just
small,
talked about it.
oh, okay, that's such a
And
small
they actually,
amount, I was sure about
they got
the.
me agreeing with them, but they don't know it
Ooh.
yet.
I mean, because they're talking about
A proposal, do you want to do it or not?
We have it?
Can we do
Is that a
that?
motion or not?
So
I
we can
don't
bring it-
know how.
we can bring it up under ARPA.
ARPA's on the
We're still
Yeah,
on.
we're
agenda,
still
so we
on
can
ARPA.
bring it
We're
up.
still on. So I'll make a motion.
Okay.
That, we, give, Journey House, $10,000.
Second.
Do you think that's gonna be enough? Yeah, that's my question.
I
If
don't
we're a
know.
couple of months out.
Yeah, that's when they were here.
Well, that's what they requested.
That's what they.
Yeah, a couple of months ago, but I'm not sure they requested enough and.
Well, they're gonna take it and then deal with it, you know, if they wanna come back for, oh, I'm sorry, guys, but we do it or we don't do it, that's,
Was,
That's my
are you
opinion.
the second, or
I was
was
the
there second?
No,
Okay,
it
two.
was.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion about that? Anything else under ARPA?
Vote on that, or maybe? As, we changed it?
The action plan.
Yeah.
Did you take good notes? Did you bring a
Somebody give us the notes.
I can bring it revised, or you can just
Make
accept it as
sure, well,
amended.
and make sure we all understand. In the discussion, did you get it?
Yeah, I did.
Right, this- Do you want, she's got the amendments now.
Okay, the entire first section, is deleted. And then the second paragraph is just factual information. Applicants may present their requests at a Board of Commissioners meeting. Where it says, ARPA committee, change that to board, shall review requests. And then, the list of criteria with the change that applications will be taken till the 15th, distribution decisions made on the 20th.
Should we say beginning on the
Beginning on the 20th?
Yeah.
We don't,
And we said it at the same time.
One other offer question.
Yes.
We have a letter here from Larry Post regarding.
Have not.
$151,000.
Okay.
Quick thing, do we need to vote on the action plan thing first?
Oh, sorry.
Are they,
Yes.
are you gonna, are we gonna vote on it, or are you just gonna get us the, it's not,
Totally up to you.
it's not a policy
Do
per
we
se.
need to vote on it?
No, I think it's just a guideline.
Okay, good enough for me. Carry on.
I think that's what we want as a guideline.
Okay.
We don't wanna box ourselves.
Yeah. It-
I'm with it.
It's not really a
But we wanna
policy,
have
we're just-
parameters.
Especially that House of Representatives comment on the bottom.
I'll, make a phone call, find out. So there was an additional letter. Confusion the last couple.
Okay, you had a couple of memos from me, one dated December 29th, where I made clear that we had looked at, and you had approved, adding 24 hours to the medical contract in the jail. That was $291,000. That was in the budget for 2021, 2022. I currently have the contract for the whole year, the calendar year, and obviously that needs to be, we're gonna need to come back and approve more of that. That total amount to date from to the end of this year would be $550,811. And 2023, if we add another 300,000, the total, and I'm just giving you the warning that the total for that whole period is $850,811 for the increase to the 24 hours. If we take it out of the ARPA money through 2023.
So,
That's the increase, that's not the total, right? Isn't the total over a million?
Yes, that's the increase, based on going to 2024. Now, that does not, the contract expires at the end of this year, so we'll actually be going to bid. So that's an estimate, but that's not necessarily the true amount, because we're gonna go to bid starting for next year.
Yeah, go right ahead.
so, if I can get this straight, the 291
Mhm.
is gonna be in 2022's budget.
That's in the budget that's currently from 2020 to 2021 to 2022.
But 2022 to 2023, you need an extra 550,000.
50, all right, you got two things going on here. You've got the budget year, July, June for the jail. And then the contract runs the calendar year, January 1st through December 31st. So that throws the numbers off. That's putting you on notice that there's going to be increase.
Is this going to be reflected on the schedule as far as committed funds? For the 2 years of ARPA?
No, have we put that on here yet?
No, the 291 is on there,
Yes.
not the increase.
Well, what I'd like to see is everything that we know about.
Mhm.
I want to see on one page here that we continue to know about it and
Mhm.
that we take it into consideration every time we
Yes.
give out money.
And she's been trying to keep up with, and has done a marvelous job at it. But this was just within this past week that
Right.
I sent these memos to you, so.
That's
So we got the 291 on there, nothing.
Right.
not to run it. I'd like to go back, it's been such a big increase, is have another discussion with the jail administrator, sheriff, and see what the options are as opposed to contracting that, see if there are other options, because keep in mind, after ARPA's over, that's gonna be part of our budget.
That's right.
And, I mean, that, I don't see our budget sustaining that.
Yeah.
That's kind of concerns us at the beginning.
Problem comes right now, if we have an issue in the jail with somebody in a serious medical condition, and we don't have somebody on board, good luck. And by the time we're done fighting that battle, that we didn't have somebody to take care of them, and trying to get them situated is going to be
Right, and that
way,
was the
way
argument
worse
for
than,
200,000.
but the fact is, that contract, of course, right now you got the 291, the full contract, through the end of the year is, 550. Now, you don't have to do beyond that, because again, contract expires at the end of this year, we'll go to bid again. But, that's,
following.
I thought Shoot explained this
Okay.
a lot differently.
So when we took the original 291,000,
Mhm.
I was under the impression that we had the jail paying for health care, but it was only daytime
Yes.
kind of thing.
that's correct.
And this was to take us to a 24/7
Yes.
concept. And that would be taking us till the end of the fiscal year of the jail, but you're saying
Yes,
no?
yes, the fiscal year of the jail, which is June 30th, 2022.
Okay, so when we did that, we bought 9 months worth of coverage? Which I think is where Sally's going with her question.
Yeah.
We were paying for a base,
Mhm.
we added 291,
Mhm.
and we
Right.
got 9 months, 8 months.
6,
I thought I'm going till the end of June this year.
yes, we are.
And did I have it in 21, December, November, or did I misunderstand that? I thought I was covered.
The budget was accepted, and that was in the budget in November, but the contract starts in January. The new contract for 2022.
Okay, but we approved, is this the county budget or the jail budget?
Jail
I
budget.
guess
Well,
it was in the jail budget.
Yep.
Which we just
which,
approved in December.
Mhm.
November, excuse me. When did we buy it when we approved the 291? I guess that's where I'm getting
The thing is that
confused.
the jail budget, you're not saying that the whole jail budget only goes 6 months. The jail budget that we approved at the beginning of the year, we take in consideration for that. So why is this one item in the jail budget only 6 months, where everything else in the jail budget goes a whole year?
well,
Calendar year, thank you.
because the increase to 24 hours, and actually it's put off a little bit, so, but the increase for the 24 hours didn't start until the new contract year, beginning in January. And actually, we just got a
And
revision of
that's when
that,
the
so it's
budget
not gonna
starts,
start.
so that's the 291. Don't know.
And
I just don't know, I can't get my head around where it grew dollars.
So this is a
Okay,
cost cutter
all right.
versus paying
The-
cost.
But
the-
that's not a.
the- Well, let me see if I can. The 291 was the difference, and actually it's a little bit less because they're not gonna be able to totally fund us in January, or give us the service in January, February, because they're hiring people. But the 291 was the difference between the normal, service we've been getting and a 24-hour service. So, and that was for the year, or the current year, 2022, on the calendar year. So, that was based on essentially 6 months of increase.
No, the calendar year, like the
Yes.
budget.
The 291 is in the budget. Then you get to the $1,200,000, roughly $1,184,000 now, because they just changed it again today. But you get to that almost 2 million for the $1,200,000 for the calendar year. And so you've got 6 months. You got 6 months of the last fiscal year, 6 months of the next fiscal year for your total.
If we're talking numbers, but we're all visual people. If we have a little sheet with a timeline and the amounts written for the amount of time for the jail and what we're getting, then it would be more graphic, and I think it would be like that.
Okay.
And would you all like take a look at the contract next meeting also?
Well,
You guys are both contract people.
Okay, here's the issue. The contract was supposed to have been signed already, and it's sitting on my desk ready to go.
Well, for 291. The contract for 291.
No, for,
This is the
well, for
first
the,
time we've heard.
it's for the $1,284,000 for calendar year 2022. So you've got the 291, which puts you through till June 30th, and then you've got the extra that take you to the end of the year.
Why
I
did
definitely
why
see
did
that
we go to June
contract.
30th? I mean, I understand the state puts the jail in that
Mhm.
bucket,
Right.
but I was under the impression everything that we paid was calendar June. And
Not for the jail, because the jail, we have to do the,
But our jail budget isn't for half a year. Our jail budget's for the whole year.
yes.
and
The
the
problem comes is that the medical contract is for the calendar year, not fiscal year. You have parts of 2 fiscal years.
So it was, I don't believe it was ever, and I said, as it was presented to the budget committee too, that 291 is for 6 months. 291 was a savings to go to 24-hour. And that was not a partial payment in which it's going to more than double for the second 6 months. I and maybe we have to, I don't know, but the amount has changed so drastically, I think we at least options, because at over $1 million, it doesn't sound like a cost savings anymore. So I think
No,
we need to
hold
take
on,
a look
hold
at all
on,
the,
hold on.
291 maybe
The-
was.
The $1,200,000 is the total contract, which includes what we've already been paying, plus the increase for the 24 hours. That's the total contract, not the increase.
Right.
Can I see the
It's a
contract? Can we see the contract?
Big jump.
Who
Is
is
there
the
a breakdown
contract
in
with?
the contract?
Who is it with? The contract.
Correctional Health Partners.
Okay, so stuff like that doesn't go out to bid.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
And we've extended their contract a couple times, but, we're scheduled to go out to bid again for next year.
this is what I'd like to do, is see the contract we signed in 21. And if we signed the contract when we allocated 291, 366. What did we sign when we gave you 291,366? You haven't spent it. I guess I just realized that. It's been approved, so okay, so we never spent the 291,000. And we also have not had the service. And we're still not having it in January because they don't have the staffing to do it, is what you alluded to.
And
I
we,
did not know that when we passed the 291,000. I was under the impression that coverage was starting within weeks or days.
Kicked in.
But the contract, I thought it was being
Because
implemented
because
then.
of our staffing
And
problems.
because of COVID, we looked at it as they're going to the hospital, taking much longer, therefore staff-wise, yeah. So we were doing this proactive to prevent the sheriff's department from having a couple of people over there,
And taking people back and forth to the
taking
hospital.
people back and forth.
and that's still an issue. That is the
Okay.
issue.
But the issue is, I think those of us sitting here, or at least some of us, thought we were, that was going into
I
effect.
thought this was live
Yes,
forever ago.
thank you. And now you're telling us it's not.
Well,
So how
all right.
much was the original contract, how much do we pay for the service during the daytime? Because that's what we've been paying for several years, is that correct?
Well, that was the 291, 353.
No.
No, the 291 is the issue. It was
Yeah, there's
So
a
what?
lot more questions.
last year, and,
Well, that's
and
last, this is before my time, I remember that, all right?
Yes, no,
okay, this current fiscal year, July 1, 2021 to June 30th, 2022, and this is off the top of my head, so don't hold me to the exact dollars, but the normal contract that we had was going to be roughly $685,000. And then you add the 291, it brings you to 977,000. That's for the fiscal year, July 1 through. So you got 977,000 for that fiscal year, and then you add other 6 months, to give you the million.
I still would like to see graphically.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around, we haven't had this service being used.
Especially when you're comparing fiscal years, because your contract is for 12 months.
Mhm.
We account for it off year. So there's a 6 month, no sinking there. And because, when we get the accounting, explains, well, I think the question is that for what period are we getting coverage with the contract at a given amount? That's a confusing part. So I think if you turn it graphically, I don't, do we have to solve this tonight?
They're waiting, they've already signed a contract, they're waiting for a signature on that contract to get it back to them so they can start their process to get people on board.
It's a drastic, sudden jump.
You know, and again, that total amount is a total for the, that total period as opposed to a yearly increase. What I was trying to do was to have us look at setting aside those dollars for the total amount of time, so that we wouldn't end up, what we do, or what is the purpose of that. And I'm sorry if I confused you, but, I wanted to look at the total length of time that this ARPA probably would be.
So when we do a contract with this correctional or whatever it is, we go out 2 years, the contract is a 2-year contract? or what?
No, this is 1 year,
Okay, well,
this year.
2023 is not here yet.
Right, that's correct, that's only an estimate on my part.
Okay,
And that may or may not be,
well, that's what I was gonna say, even if what if we don't go with them for the
Mhm.
next contract?
Mhm.
This figure is meaningless, I mean,
right, yeah. Just wanted you to be prepared so that we didn't give all of our money away and suddenly needed some next year for it.
so the total contract that you need to submit soon is which one? What's the total of that contract on your desk?
The total is, 1,184,000 something.
It's
not the
It's the 1,236,000.
Well, 236, that was when they wasn't doing it in January, but then we requested, because we've got other stuff going on, we've got our, I think it's an MAP program, happening, and so we requested that they wait until March 1st to bring the 24 hours on, so that brings it down from 236 to 184.
Long ways from the 291 that we talked about at the budget committee and in this room with.
Well, no, this is the total now, not the increase. The 291 was the increase.
We added 291. That was
Yeah, but that includes, the 550 includes the 291.
Oh,
So instead of 291 for the first year, they're asking for 550.
For the full year, as opposed to the 291 for the fiscal year of 6 months. Yeah, and you take off 50,000 of that, 55 I think it is, so that brings it below 500,000 for the calendar year.
So what part of this medical contract did we fund through checks, through taxing? I mean,
For
the original
For the fiscal year that we're in,
for
the
22.
original was 685.
So back to the budget documentation that was given to us
Hmm.
by the sheriff's department.
Hmm.
It was presented with only, I'm gonna say daytime coverage for the sake of making this conversation easier. Daytime coverage. So in November, when we knew we wanted 24/7 coverage,
Hmm.
you didn't bring it to us with 24-hour coverage. You brought it to us with daytime coverage only. And that's costing $685,000 in 22.
That was in the original budget, and then
And that is for what period in 22? Is it from January to December?
no, that would be from July through June.
July of 22 to June of
No,
23?
No, July of 21 through June of 22.
In November of 21,
Yes,
you were giving me a budget
yes,
for 6 months that have already gone by.
yes.
Oh, okay.
That's how that works. And do I like it? Absolutely not. Does Clarice like it? Absolutely not. Does anybody like it? No. But that's what we were stuck with. Now, we can change the county fiscal year to the same as the jail, or change the jail fiscal year to the same as the county. However, you've got to come up with 6 months worth of expenditures or revenue to offset. So,
You know, with this much increase, again, I'd like to at least have a discussion about options and or at least some of the board members to take a look at the contract so that we don't have another misunderstanding going into this. What we thought was a year and 6 months. Wasn't really funding the 6 months, it was just only the increase. Just that way there won't be misunderstandings again. Look over the contracts yourself and at least have a conversation about what are some of the options. Because that's a big price. There's at least a conversation about options.
I'm not saying no, we're saying we need clarification. I guess is what we're just trying to understand it better. Don't-
Yeah, I thought that, when that budget was presented, through the deal, I thought that was, clear that would start, in January and again, for that fiscal year difference.
As for 5,000, we're not doing that yet, so we just want to wait till we cross that 5,000 for COVID testing, if we need to do that.
Yeah. We also have a second letter from you regarding the heating system.
Yes. Yes, that, and I explained in the narrative.
I got a question on this heating system.
Sure.
Why wasn't the money carried over from June?
It was in the jail budget. The jail budget, again, we had a $400,000 deficit at the end of the year in revenue. And I think it was just a case of nobody caught.
That have to be signed off on to not let it carry over, or it just falls off?
No, it just falls off.
It doesn't need to be encumbered, and we had that whole discussion with the budget committee that we would not spend it for what they approved it for. They had a big problem with that. And I was gonna write policies assuring them that we would make sure when they approve projects that we would spend it on what they approved. And then I thought you came up with a statute that covered it, so I didn't have to write the policy. So I feel like this should have been encumbered because true to what we represented to the budget committee.
Well, and again, this was in the regular jail budget, and this does qualify for the ARPA money.
And I'm not saying we shouldn't do that, just I did have concerns of how it was. And it wasn't there already a 35,000 that was spent on this project that's not in here? Maybe back at the very beginning?
I think that's it within the 151.
So we don't, if 151 isn't the amount, there was a 35 that's already been.
There was work done for 30 some odd
I thought it was
thousand.
35 or 39.
Yeah, 35, I think or something. Then down on the first floor, on the ground floor? Was that the heating issue?
Without looking at the actual invoice, I believe that was they did some of the valves on the heating system of the jail, and they partially billed us for the project.
Yeah, that's what
Oh, excuse me, main controls.
So that would, but it was part of the project.
Yes. Part of the original 159 that we approved.
Again, without going back to look at the invoice, I believe that's what it is.
Sorry, I'm just confused how this dropped off and didn't get carried over. I understand it's eligible for ARPA, it's just
So the balance of the hasn't been spent on the system yet.
They're still working on it.
Choose to do that one part of the 30 whatever.
Yes, we did.
What made us choose to just do that one part and not jump into the whole thing?
Well, partially is because we couldn't get the vendors here to do the whole project. So main controls is split up between two, let's say, departments. One's mechanical services, main controls. We were able to get mechanical services here to do the plumbing part of it. One reason is because the valves were leaking water everywhere, and our floors were getting wet and dripping down to the ceilings. So we pushed them to get here at least to do the plumbing part of it. Main controls, we are still working on getting them here to stay here. This week now, COVID hit one of the employees, so they're skeleton crew again.
Ductwork cleaning.
Oh, okay. Discuss that, or is that something you want to take action on, or I know where we're going here?
I'd like to take action for the ductwork. For the ductwork cleaning in the jail and courthouse. And that was never originally included in the first bid, correct?
Which first
The
bid?
ductwork, the 159.
No, that's totally separate.
No.
Why did I think?
Oh, you mean in the letter or the quote?
In this letter,
Oh, I don't know what's in the letter.
Oh, in the letter it's separate. I'm cool with that.
Okay.
But it was included in the first work. And the second scope, replace, clean all that work in the jail and county building. This was your letter.
Okay, that's different than the controls that are being done currently.
No, but we're
Oh,
talking
sorry, I
about
moved
the
on to the
ductwork.
ductwork.
Okay, because we're talking about different topics.
No, we moved on to the ductwork.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
done with the valve and all that.
And
Okay,
then-
now we're
so
on
this would be
ductwork.
taken out of your the
Yes.
project
Yes.
here
Yes.
and just put up earlier
correct.
because it hasn't been done in
No,
a long time, 10 years?
nope, 6 years ago. We're due, this is our 7th year. We're due for it.
So why wasn't this in the regular budget?
It was.
Well, it wasn't the regular budget, why am I being asked to give money tonight?
That's right. It was included in the adopted budget.
Not all of it was. The courthouse, I did not budget for it yet.
So that's an extra.
But yeah, we're waiting to get the money approved and then we'll go with the bid.
So you had ductwork cleaning in our,
In the jail budget.
in the jail budget that we just passed in November of '21.
Yes.
This,
So why can't we just get that done?
whatever you seem to wanna say.
No, go ahead.
So this 40 to 50 says jail and courthouse. But you don't need money for the jail. You've already got it.
Well,
You raised it by taxing us.
But if this money, or this project is eligible for ARPA money, that means that, and as you know, from, or as I explained from last year, how we ended up with less revenue in the jail, and we ended up using, a lot of our, or most of our, reserve account, which we didn't have until a couple of years ago. So any money, that money can be used if something else comes up, or can be used to give us a little bit of cushion. I anticipated.
But we also had in the budget the body scanner for the jail, which was $159,000.
Right.
Which we then took the ARPA money to pay that, so we've already given back $159,000.
But that was from the previous year, and the previous year, due to the state not giving us money that they had in the past and so on, and other less revenue, if we had ended up paying that out of the jail, that would have down to zero.
First one, Clarice, I assume it's a yes, but ductwork, that's good under ARPA for the jail.
Yes.
Okay, and two, this is just my view here. It feels, I would much more appreciate these if it was out front and blunt. Hey, we did a budget for this, but we can save some money and use it from ARPA for the breakdown. I'm not happy with how these things are going.
Budget, and then was also in this proposal for the HVAC. So it's in both places. So, budget committee and the commissioners gave money in the budget for it, and then turned around and it shows up again in the HVAC system.
It's not a good look for
so
the
it just,
budget committee for what we're doing.
And I'm not saying it is, but maybe it's because I don't have my head around it the way I should. It feels a little like hide the ball and there's just little bits of money here and there that, if it qualifies for ARPA and we can save on tax, pull that money on the budget and put it into the building reserve, that's great, but I just, I want don't have to use tax money for it. That's great for the taxpayers. So I probably have this motion that you would like to act on that tonight, or?
I did, but now I'm torn. In the original budget.
So it's gonna get done. The question. It is getting done
It needs to get
because
done.
we already gave you the money.
Sooner rather than later.
Okay. So the only reason that we're voting on this is to rebuild what you refer to as the reserve.
If indeed we can do that, because we're gonna be real tight.
I say we delay this to understand this better. I don't know. Tonight I'm finding all these things very.
No, you wait till you're.
I don't think it's not clear to you, it's not clear to me.
Set them out a little bit.
Said anything. Was it clear to you?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you can clean us. Quiet.
Yeah.
Clarice, on all of the, maybe we could even have an extra column here on our spreadsheet, when I'd like, your approval on your reading of, when you've been dealing with it, of all of these, asks or requests that come,
On my original thing, which is very detailed, that I don't give to you folks, it even has a section of the guidance, because I need it for reporting. I get some of that, so
Could I see some of that?
Sure.
I mean, in the end, I know you're very much on the hook for this, so I want your opinion to always weigh into it.
Yeah, I'm not saying yes and you tell me, unless you tell me it.
Yep.
That is a lot, I'm so sorry.
Where are we?
Okay, so you withdrew your motion. Anyone else want to talk about anything with the ARPA funds or?
The grant assistant.
The grant assistant, that it was going to be involved in the conversation, but as a separate
Yep.
item
Yep, just want to make sure.
The next meeting.
at the next meeting, and I've got that
That's all
under
I want.
future agenda items. What I have so, well, I'll get to that in just a minute. Let's move to discussion items. Any other, whether it be ARPA or anything else you'd like to discuss? Yes, sir.
I had made a request to have us start looking at the dispatch fee structure. Anywhere.
All right, sir.
So I don't know if you want to talk about it under the agenda items, the future agenda items, or do you want to talk about it? I guess I just would like us to start a discussion.
What would you like to, give us an idea of what you would like to
Well,
have? Would you like
I guess the,
dispatch to come in? Would you like a history a little bit from them?
I think at
Structure?
a history for the committee, we sign new contracts on an annual basis, is that correct? A 3-year basis.
3 years.
3-year basis. We have a majority of them coming up for renewal this June or July, correct? By 1, I believe. Unfortunately, they go back to the jail certain contract cycle. They won't go to calendar cycle.
No, they don't, they're calendar.
Calendar too?
I think so. Yeah, sure, I'm sure. It's calendar.
Calendar.
Yes.
When did we sign the last contract with the towns? See the contracts then, I guess? Let's just go that route.
Okay, would you like to see the contract?
All,
Yeah, all 14 of them.
All right.
I guess because I really thought it was June, and now you're telling me
I
it's
think-
January.
I
So
think-
let's just look at the
well,
contracts.
there are 2 that are off the schedule. So, and those are there are 2 that are July, June.
Okay.
And
Well, I guess my concern is, do the county commissioners review these contracts prior to their being signed, so that we know that we're
In essence, what you've done in the past is the commissioners have normally set the rates for the next 3 years.
okay? When is that supposed to be done?
At any point in time, the sooner the better, because towns are now
Right,
starting to.
well, that's what, and that was my reason for putting it on the agenda, because I want to give the
Let's
town
get
a
it
heads
done.
up.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
let's get it done.
Okay, so I'm sure Marty could put together a history for him. Want to contact Marty, or did you want me to email him?
No, I'll
Okay. So we're sort, and it's okay with me, we're sort of going back and forth between discussion and future agenda items, but that's no problem. Any other, what I have for future agenda items is to schedule an executive session to set up the guidelines for the contract talks. We may or may not need it, but I think we should put an executive session on as far as acquisitions. We have 2 issues we're talking about, and go forward.
Yeah.
Or not, put that. The contract that goes along with funds will be on the next agenda, and personnel has a second subject to help, that would work under the treasurer in watching over those, and dispatch fee structure. Presentation from our dispatch department head Marty, and see the contracts.
Still think that, we could all benefit from the linear
Oh, right, okay.
thing, so that there'll. My concern is that we'll still have some problems, some questions, that if we can put that next meeting, then I'll be happy.
The medical,
The medical. So many
yes, thank
things
you,
are-
I forgot to write that
Yeah,
down.
we've got 24-hour service, because now it's not just daytime, we've got the contract there, we've got the different fiscal years, we've got, okay.
Discussing an executive session that we had asked Dave to get us a quote on. Do we go into executive session to talk about that? At this point, I'm just not sure what the proper procedure
I think
is.
we have to wait till the next one to go into executive session to discuss it.
Okay.
So,
I
so
believe she's
that's
got it
the
on there.
executive session for acquisitions?
She's got it on there
Yes.
for the next one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she
She
added it.
did, okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
You know, there's a couple projects that either need to be put to bed or move forward, whichever the board wants to do.
Which I think there's gonna be quite a bit of discussion.
Well, I just want to make sure we didn't forget.
Okay. Anything else, Mr. Oates, that you can think of to
No, top of my head.
Second?
all in favor?